As I think I said at the beginning, one of the advantages of being at a large research university is that you get to, dip into topics that people are currently working on. This topic of mind only being one that I've been working on since 1982 or 3. And I find that the point I'm at now is, sort of trying to figure out what to do first, second, and third, because there are 3 books. But anyway.
So Reflections on Reality.
Yes, Reflections on Reality is number 2.
Oh, number 2.
That's how it's referred to in the mind-only Buddhism in Tibet. And absorption in no external world remains number 3. And so that at least fits together with how they're laid out. Now, the beginning of Reflections on Reality, especially the up to 170, is for the sake of getting into this material, placing it in context and so forth. And we jumped into 170 because we started talking about the 3 natures and the 3 non-natures. It made a certain sense. But we need to go back, not back, but we need to do the material at the beginning to get this placement, okay? And thus, as the assignment for this coming time, I suggest Reflections on Reality 1 to 65. Pretty easy reading, I think, but I, never know myself. I don't feel bad that we've done what we've done, if you follow me, but now it's time to go back and take advantage of the contextualizing that is in that part. So you're preparing a chart, right, for today? You have my critical edition of these 2 parts, the introduction and my section on mind only for this in Tibetan, right?
Oh, yeah.
The part that's translated. With numerous editions having been consulted. Usually, a lot of work was done by graduate students in the program at the back of number 1.
This one?
So, we have Shenwang Gyawang Moni Meba. Shenwang Gyawang Moni Meba. Gwinda. Shenwang Gyawang Moni Meba. Gwinda. Henyi Moni Meba. Right? And then what's the 3rd nature? Yongru. Shentang Moni Meba. This is the reason for doing out the chart, to make sure that we had all these. And so for Shenwang Gyawang Moni Meba, the Gyawang Moni Meba is Utpati Ni Svabhava, right? Does everybody have that? What? Lakshana Ni Svabhava, Paramartha Ni Svabhava. Or would you write those 3 on the bottom? Within Gunda, there are Yuryu Gunda, and Nekyu Gunda. Okay, those are the 2 types. What does gyu here mean? Gubarchawa. That which is to be established. That which is to be achieved. Future. It's the future object now. Which can also be done out as drupja. Right? Drupja. Drupya. Drupyu. Same thing. Yu doesn't mean cause there. Yu doesn't mean cause. Very important. Yu, the general meaning of yu, as you all know, is cause, but in this kind of context, it doesn't. So yu gunda just means which are existents, T-E-N-T-S, which are things that exist. And you don't have to turn it into a future. You know, you can be talking about something in the past and say that the drupja was, and, you know, but it's in Sanskrit, it's a future passive participle, right? It's a gerundive, it's a verb that's been made into a noun. It's that which is to be accomplished, okay? Megyu means that which doesn't exist, megyu gunda. So, imputational natures that do not exist or that are things that don't exist, to be quite literal. Drupyu means that which is to be accomplished. Drubarcha means that which is to be accomplished. Drupja means that which is to be accomplished. Short form. And so, Drupyu same. So yu gunda, gunda that are things that exist, so existent imputational natures. And megyu gunda, non-existent imputational natures. Very important. When you see that word yu there, so that includes describing about yurgyu gunda and megyu gunda, right? And for instance, sungdu jalgyu. Sungdu jawa means to make unified or to be unified. Sungdu jalgyu are those which are to be made unified. And when you get a bad translator, the translator takes, you know, that as cause of union, something like that, and just doesn't have acquaintance, broad enough acquaintance with the language, which of course we all run into now and then. I'm certainly not claiming. That I don't have these problems.
Do yurgyu kunda or megyu kunda sort of imply that kunda which is to be made existent, or?
No,
No.
not at all.
Okay.
Just you, that which exists. There's no future sense to it, even though these are built off of the future verb. So, one of the three tenses of she explained, put forth. Now, in Tibetan, old style is future first, present second, and past third. Why is it? Because the future exists first. The present exists second, and the past exists first. For instance, the future of an object exists before the object exists. I think this is the reason. Nobody's ever explained it to me this way. But this is right in Sacranda Ten. The future of an object exists first, right? Mm-hmm. The future temple out of my 43 acres, right? That exists first. The future of it exists now. And then comes the present, then comes the future. I'm in the past, thank you. Okay, so. You make you. So we need those subdivisions. Now, Gunda are Rangane Tuba. Gunda Churchin. Rangane Tuba Yimbata. What do you say? You follow? Gunda Churchin. the subject gunda, rangune truba yimbarta, follows that it is established from its own self. Okay? Gunda trujin, the subject gunda. Rangune truba yimbarta. Say it all. Gunda trujin. Rangune truba yimbarta. So gunda are tsenyuoni meru, but they are rangune truba. At least the category is in yurgyu gunda, existent imputational natures are rangune truba. Why? According to Tsongkhapa's subtle reasoning, even though the proponents of mind only never said yurgyu gunda are rangune truba, he ferreted that out from what they say. In other words, they posit a difference in status between gunda on the one hand and shenwang and yondrup on the other, right? Gunda are not rangatsin yigitruba, yondrup, and shenwang are rangatsin yigitruba, rabba. And if rangitsin yigitruba meant rangane truba, if it did mean that, then since they refute rangitsin yigitruba with respect to yurgyu gunda, forget about megyu gunda, they're never. If they were able to refute rangitsin yigitruba with respect to gunda, and they are, that's a fundamental tenet, then they would be able to refute rangane truba with respect to gunda. What would be the fault of that? If they could do that. Why does it have to be Yobayina Rangane Truba Yimbe Khyab? I mean, that was Tsongkhapa's genius, right or wrong, to find this out about Cittamātra. If they could refute that Gunda are Rangitsin Yigitruba, then they could refute that Gunda are Rangane Truba, right? What would be the problem with that?
Wouldn't that make the second wheel literal for them, which they're saying it's not?
Yes. It would make the second wheel literal. You couldn't make a difference between prasangika and Cittamātra. And prasangika, one doesn't have to take it for granted that he's right, but prasangika and Cittamātra argued. And what were they arguing about? That's why in the second half of the translation, he spends so much time showing that these two schools argued and trying to delineate what they were arguing about. Now, what would be the problem? You could say, well, proponents of mind only are a little dull. They're not like the glorious prasangikas, the glorious consequentialists who realize that all phenomena are not established from their own side. Tamche Raman don't be realized. Whereas the proponents of mind only merely realize that in existent imputational natures, or you can say imputational natures just in general, are, you could say that they realize that they are not Rangitsin Vitruva and that they are not Rangan. You just realize one category, and then as you rose higher in your understanding, you would extend this understanding to other phenomena. What would be the problem with that? What I'm saying is, then second wheel is not definitive for them, but just the teaching that Gunda are Rangane Matruba, that's definitive. Do you follow? Whereas they still hold that Yondu and Shenwang are Rangitsen Truba. Okay? And what would be the problem with that? The problem is that Aryadeva says if you realize emptiness, which is Ranganimatra, with respect to one phenomenon, you can realize it with respect to any other phenomenon. Any. It's an extraordinary statement. And I don't know, I can't give you the follow-up on this, maybe Noam can. I remember Ladi Rinpoche saying if you realize impermanence with respect to the chalk, you cannot necessarily apply it to other phenomena. He made that statement. And I don't know why. It would certainly help you a lot. But I imagine you could realize it with respect to the chalk, but not your body or your tongue. You know, I can't flesh it out. That part, impermanence. Aryadeva says if you can realize the emptiness of one phenomenon, you can realize the emptiness of all phenomena. And that is taken not as meaning that at the same time you realize all emptinesses. I mean, this is inference, okay? But inferences, remember, earth shattering. It's earth shattering. Even correctly assuming consciousness with respect to emptiness is like being hit by lightning. And so during the functioning of that consciousness realizing emptiness, if you turn your mind to any other subject, you will immediately realize its emptiness without any further reason. Okay? So, if proponents of mind only could realize, and this seems to be what the great Sakya teacher Baksang Lozal seems to be his opinion, that mind only, they could realize that one class of phenomena is not Rangarni Truba, but they couldn't extend this to others. And it fits, in a sense, with the fact that mind-only people never said, Tumujeki Nangha, Rangane Truba Yin. They never said it. They just said, Tumujeki Nangha, Yerba Yin. It exists. And Tsongkhapa, by looking into how they argue with the Prasangikas, has determined, rightly or wrongly, that for Cittamātra, Yerba means Rangane Truba. What does Rangane Truba mean? Rangane Truba means that the object is findable among its species of designation. There's discussion about this. But you can come up with something that is Tumajeki Namka. Now you can, if you look at it from this point of view, that you can come up with something that is the table. The collection of the parts of the table. The collection of the parts of the table is the table. I mean, it's got to be something that you can posit that is the table from among its spaces of designation. Now you have a definition of table, that which has 4 legs and a top, let us say, and can hold up, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't work. But, now a table is that, and that is a table. But that's not basis of designation. Basis of designation is the collection of the parts of the table, or the parts, individually, or whatever. So everybody, even in Swatantrika Madhyamaka, on down, says that claims, or at least Tsongkhapa claims, that they say that when you search for an object, you can find it. You've got to come up with something. Otherwise, things are just whatever you want to imagine them to be. If you want to imagine Angus to be Kirk, and I don't mean just the name Kirk. Of course, we can give the name Kirk to him. We can switch names for a week or something like that. And, but you know, the person who lives at such and so forth, and you know, that's called nuts. Now, where are we going? Oh, this brings us to the topic I was going to talk about last time. He says that Gunda are Demba Truba. Gunda Chujen. Demba Truba Yimba thal. Say it. Gunda Chujen. Demba Truba Yimba thal. Teacher. Why? Demba Truba Mayende. And that's calling her then to give the reason. Demba Truba Mayende. Tseningon Yimeba Yimbe Chir. That works because Tseningon Yimeba means Rangitseniki Ma Truba. And Rangitseniki Truba and Demba Trubar are synonymous, are equivalent. So Rangitseniki Truba, Demba Truba, Tuntamba Truba are equivalent. Okay? Tunchi. Rangitseniki Truba, Demba Truba, Tongue, Tuntamba Truba, Tunchi. Tunchi? Anybody have a problem with Tunchi? Tunchi? Synonymous or equivalent. So we got them on one thing there. So Gunda are Ranshingi Truba and Rangmane Truba because they're synonymous. So next time, if I forget, remind me to talk about the other type of eminence, which is what Travis was getting into on his chart. And fix up your charts, and I'll keep, going on them and do the reading. And we didn't get to the questions today, but I think we got to some important stuff. Okay.